We don't know exactly what it is, but we know he's got one, just like he has one for all of us. And many of you are on that mission right now. The drugs will destroy your brain, keep you from being able to complete your mission. And I think if you just can, in a meeting with all the staff, tell them, for a whole week or once a week or whatever, teacher, just get up and tell those kids to just stay away from it. Don't wreck their lives. Don't destroy their futures. I'd ask you to really think about that. I am really pleased that Stan moved forward with this conference. There was one in 2007. There hadn't been one since then. I heard early in the morning about the shooting in Chardon. We have people here from Chardon this morning. Where are they? Can they please stand? Stand up. Let them see you. These are great people. We have the president of the school board, and we also have a lady who sort of runs the school. Don't tell Joe Bergen, I told you that. She's in charge of the staff. And then we also have with us one of the counselors who met with the students who had witnessed the situation. Just unbelievable. It was just totally unbelievable. It just wasn't like a shooting or an incident. These were young kids who were gunned down in a cafeteria. And when I got up there, they really didn't know what to make of me. What the heck is Kasich doing here? And once they realized I was really there just to hear what the situation was, they were able to communicate very, very openly with me. The takeaways are significant. And Joe Bergant, who will be here this afternoon, he really wanted to leave as superintendent. He's been a great superintendent. He wanted to leave, but he's stepping it up for one more year. In fact, when Stan and I were in his office, we said, Joe, how about doing one more year? And he looked at me like I had horns. But Joe's decided for the good of the community that he's going to give him one more year. We keep him settled down and stable, and frankly, Chardon's going to recover. Chardon will be better than it's ever been as a result of the tragedy. When I listened to them, I felt, as did Stan and Dick Ross, who was the superintendent 27 years, a number of years in Reynoldsburg, that there was so much for people to learn around the state because they got it done right. The most amazing thing that they did in Chardon is they had a simulation. It had been done, I think, within the past year, but it was serious stuff. It was not some little game. It was all hands on deck, and frankly, I believe, and they'll have to give you more of the details, they had to warn the community that they were going to do this simulation. And in the simulation, they had the whole staff prepared to deal with a tragedy, like potential tragedy, which ultimately unfolds. They understood what to do with their doors. They understood what to do with the first responders. I mean, the police, the sheriff, the fire, the EMTs, it was like magic. And if you've seen the timeline, by the way, in Colorado, it is amazing how quickly the first responders were able to get to the scene and the law enforcement be able to get to the scene. It's just remarkable. That's what saves lives. That's what works in my judgment. Secondly, they were very conscious about security. Now, we're dealing with that here in the state. I felt that we should have security at a number of the buildings, including the State House in Columbus. Security's, in my opinion, I'm certainly not a security expert, but from talking to people who have been involved with it, it's not so much the security is going to catch somebody as much as it is that the security could deter somebody. That if people know that there's a watchful eye on the comings and goings in our schools, it makes that person who may have an intent to come into those schools think the second time. Now in Chardon, this was a very disturbed, obviously young man who was intent on bringing harm. What do they say? They say that person whose intent is the most, on creating this kind of havoc and killing people, is the hardest to stop, is what they say. So the first thing we have to think about collaboratively is what barriers can we put up that can deter that person that is not even part of that school district from coming into that school district. So security at all the doors and the perimeters and all that is something we have to pay a lot of attention to. And you probably all do it differently. See, I'm a believer that all the school districts, that you're smart people. I mean, you know what to do. And the purpose of this is not top down. It's not to hear from Stan or for any of these people, Mike or myself, about how to do it. It's about bubbling it up. What really works? What have we seen that can really be effective? Secondly, the idea of this simulation is something that we all ought to be thinking about. I mean, how do we run a simulation in our school so that if the things that we just dread would happen, how do we respond to it? How do the police, how do the sheriffs, what do we do with the mental health folks once you have a tragedy? What do you do with the EMTs? How do they get in? How do we work together? How do we communicate together? That's a very big lesson of Chardon, and they will tell you, had they not run the simulation, there would have been more tragedy than what we had. And you know, the other issue that constantly bothers me, and we were just talking about it in the back room, is the use of social media for all of us to be able to figure out a way, a reasonable way, to make sure that our students, who are the experts in social media more than we are, you agree with that, right? You're not a great social media expert. I mean, I'm certainly not, but you know what? The students are. They can pick things up right away. And in Chardon, they had a way in which people could anonymously begin to say, hey, I see a problem. The issue of bullying it's still there. I mean, you all know it. You need to tell us. We passed legislation this year on bullying. I'm not sure it's good enough. You all need to take a look at it, and you need to think about it. And if you think it's inadequate, you need to tell us. Because, you know, if we can pick up these signs somehow from the social media sites, if we can figure out who is most likely to bring this kind of violence into our schools, and we can stop it because we're smart about social media, that's great. And I'll tell you the other thing. I tell my daughters, I say, girls, you know, you're doing pretty well. You know, you're good students, you're pretty girls, you're smart. I want to know which of the people in your school you talk to who nobody talks to. Who are you paying attention to? That's what the Lord wants you to do. That person that sits alone in the lunchroom, sitting over on the corner that everybody's making fun of, what are you doing about that? And we have to become more of a community in our schools. And it's a great opportunity, I think, for all of us to better mentor these young people that we see every day. And, you know, you think about when you were in school. The quarterback on the football team, the head cheerleader, the person who stars in the plays. They're big people on campus. And their ability to put their arms around somebody that's been an outcast, wow, what a difference that makes. But you have a lot of other ideas about things that can be done. And we would like to know I'd like to know what they are, but what's more important than probably my knowing what they are is all of you working together to try to provide these safe schools. It's a tough time in our culture today, isn't it? It's just a very tough time. But we're not going to be daunted about it. We'll do what we can. One of the things I try to tell the people that work around me is, you're going to have tragedy. It's going to happen. You're going to have some people in a heat wave we're going to lose them. You know, we're going to have problems that are going to occur because of a tornado. I mean, in this job, you never know. You know, one morning you find out you got wild animals running around, you know, almost on the freeway, you know. And I got to tell you something. Thank God those wild animals never got to a schoolyard. because, you know, it sounds like a Noah's Ark, right? And all the animals got out. But boy, it was that close to tragedy. But what I try to tell people is, we can't fix all the evil, but we can do the best job we can, to the best of our consciences, to plan as best we can. And then when you do that, people understand that they did the best that they could possibly do. And I think that's our charge as we leave the conference today. Did we do everything that was reasonable, everything that a mother or a father would expect? And of course, I always like to say, if you really want to do the job, it's your children in that school. What would I want from my kids? And when we do that, got to ruffle a few feathers? So what? Who cares if we ruffle a few feathers if we get a good outcome? And that's what it's really all about. So I'm thrilled we've had such a big turnout. I think it's terrific. You know, next year we're going to have a school funding program. And it's going to be different, okay? And maybe then we should get everybody together again, because we're all in this state together. And by the way, we're doing pretty well. We're finally coming out of it, and it's great to see. We have a long way to go, but we've got to work as a team. And if we do, you know, Ohio will reclaim its rightful place as one of the great leaders in our country. So thank you all for being here, and we look forward to your recommendations, your ideas, and God bless you all as you carry out your mission. Thank you.